randoms keep getting jobs. Don't worry about it. I'm going to say, I can't wait to sing it. I love it. I love it. Go.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the NotBland Show, and I'm your host, Dujane Bland, and we're going to have a good show today. I got one of my favorite guys, our stat guy. He keeps track of a lot of stuff and works hard at doing it, and always happy to have him on, and we're going to bring him in right now. It's my guy, Dave W. What's going on, man?
Hey, nice to see you. Thanks for the lovely introduction right there. I appreciate it. Good to be on the show. Enjoy it. Always enjoy talking to man. Yeah, well, thank you.
It was a great weekend, to say the least. We've had some weeks where track and conditions weren't so great. What's going on, Briar? And this weekend was kind of picture perfect.
I think the NHRA got the weekend that they have been looking for all year, finally, at race number 4. The weather was perfect. We had 4 good quality qualifying sessions. We had a great crowd on hand all 3 days. And the performance, especially in those nitro categories, this is the only time that I can remember in recent memory, and I'm sure, I'd have to do some digging to make sure if that was the actual case, that in the nitro categories, you had 4 good, clean runs all the way down the track. It's always 2 or 3, and one of them's always up in smoke. This was a tough 4 wide eliminations to win this year.
It really was. And it really just says a lot about how good everybody is in this field. And, you had some surprises. Jason Rupert running his race and gets down there. I was very impressed. I'm very impressed with the guys that are from the top that make a ton of money and those that, piece it together and come out there and make the races that they can. It's really no gimme rounds in this thing.
There's really not. And the most impressive part, I think, too, was the fact that not only how difficult it is to get a nitro car down the track from start to finish as it is, but when you're at Vegas and upcoming Charlotte here, you have 4 very different lanes with all very different outcomes, track prep. Sure, they try and prep everything the same, but you can never get everything equal. So the fact that guys were able to get down each of the lanes and lane choice didn't really come into a play was nothing less than phenomenal too.
Well, we're going to go back and relive some of this. I'm going to start with Pro Stock, and your winner was Jed Coughlin, and this is how it went down.
Foster goes red by a mile. And this one is going to go down to the stripe, and Tucker looks like he's got a shot at it, and at the finish line stripe, it is Coughlin. 661.6, 207.18 miles an hour for Jag. Gets the job done.
So Jed Coughlin Jr. brings home the Wally at the 4-wide Nationals. Jag, you were the first to leave the starting line. You had the quickest car in that quad. You've got yourself a horse to ride, and that's going to be dangerous for the Pro Stock contingent. How good does it feel to hold that Wally for the first time in a couple of years?
It feels fantastic, let me tell you. It's been quite a ride, without question. Being in the winner's circle, nothing beats that. Team Elites obviously brought me back in with open arms with Randy and everyone at Skag and JHG and Jegs and, of course, Outlaw Beer, man. We're going to enjoy a few of those tonight, let me tell you. But this thing was a rocket all weekend. I let the clutch out there in the final. The whole crew chief bank had this thing on kill, and front end was up. I was banging through the gears, and I'm like, God, please hold together, because everything felt really good from the time I let the clutch out until I saw that blinking light. And, I love my family. Thank you, guys. We'll see you soon.
Amanda's with Jag's teammate, Eric Enders.
Woo!
I'm happy for Jag. And it looks like some unsung heroes such as Jerry Tucker and Brandon Foster really stepped up. I really thought one of those guys were going to win this thing the way they have been running all weekend long. But Jeg managed to pull it off. I would have been confused, too, if I was Brian Loans after someone goes negative 133 red. I would have been confused, too. So it was amazing. Great weekend for Jeg, though.
Oh, it really was. And then you combine that with the fact that he won the Mission 2 Fast 2 Tasty Challenge 4-wide deal on Saturday. He swept the weekend in Pro Stock as far as wins go. 85th career overall win if you put all the categories together, tying him with Bob Glidden. 66th only in Pro Stock, which is still looks like he's fourth all-time, closing in on the top three. And like you said, my heart broke for Brandon Foster too, but if you look at the numbers, even a perfect light, he still would have lost to Jeg by 1,000. So that 661 combined with an 013 light by Jeg, that was his race to win, and he won it. And it wasn't a matter of if he was going to win again. It was just a matter of when he came back last year at Las Vegas at the fall race. And it's amazing to see that it only took him just a few short events to get right back into the winning ways. And it kind of is going to be curious to see how that plays out going through the rest of the season.
Yes, sir. And shout out to my barber who got me looking fresh for the show, Brinson Bright. Another masterpiece, as you guys can see. I mean, just got me crispy. So super happy about that. And thanks, Brinson. Appreciate you, bro. Yeah, I think this is going to be one of those things where we see not a consistent winner every week in Pro Stock. And I think this is still a thing where, again, I know somebody like Drag Racing Mayhem would emphasize the fact that this is why the regular season really doesn't matter. Erica doesn't really need to be and win every one of these things. She just needs to be in the hunt and then strike when the iron is hot, like she normally does in the playoffs.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, you still got to get the car down the track. I mean, maybe they're in test mode at some of these events. It's hard to say. I would think that when you're going to a track that you know is also going to be in the countdown, that you want to really kind of perfect your tune-up, even if the weather may or may not be the same. I mean, it's hard to say how it plays out this fall in Vegas, but I mean, she's still number one in points, but I mean, the top four are pretty much stepping away from everybody else between Erica, Dallas, Greg, and Jeg. And imagine if those four come down to it. But again, I know we talk about the regular season and the countdown and the participation awards. Pro Stock's probably going to have a 17, 18 car countdown. So, I mean, really, it's going to be a 6-race season at the end of the year if all these guys keep showing up to all these events the way that they are.
I agree. And we'll move on real quick because we got some topics we want to hit. And this one was really close here. Your winner was your reigning, defending, undisputed Top Fuel World Champion of the world, Doug Coletta. He finally got a win. They've been kind of right on the threshold, and this is how it went down.
They're all clean off the watch. They're all clean down the racetrack, and across the finish line stripe, it is Doug Coletta, 371.5. Beats a 374.5, a 374.5, and a 376.9.
When Doug Coletta has himself a good race car, the rest of the competition better watch out. That was the case this weekend, Doug. 371. That was a close final round, 0.003 of a second. How much fun are you having driving this car right now?
Yeah, I tell you, Alan Johnson and Mac and all these Mac Tools, Toyota, Revline guys, they're really got this thing running. Each round we were running, quick time, and it's great to do in Vegas, and obviously the first 4 wide is pretty special.
Congratulations, Doug.
Thanks a lot.
A man, a few words, but I tell you what, I think everybody thought, and even myself, I was like, we're not going to go into this second round case of the yips, the phantom tire smoke every week starting out the season. And, they had some issues, but everybody's had their share of issues, but they managed to turn the win lights on this weekend and get the W. I think that's huge for Doug in getting early season wins and kind of building on that.
Yeah, I agree. It's something that hasn't happened for that team in a while. once they busted back into the winner's circle, and especially coming off of being a defending champ last year. And it wasn't like they backed into this particular win either. They had a quick car. They had a fast car throughout the rounds. Alan Johnson was getting the thing down the track. Doug was driving awesome on the starting line. And, nice to see your defending champion pick one up in the 4th race of the year and build momentum going through the rest of the season too.
Most definitely. We'll get on to that was a tight race. It was .0032 was the margin of victory. But this one was even tighter. And your boy BT3, the fastest man in drag racing, Mr. 341, got his W here. And this is how it went down.
What a final round. They charge to the finish line stripe. And the win light is on for Bob Tasca. 391.5 on a hole shot. He's a triple hole shot for the first time in funny car history. 391 beat a 389, beat a 390, and beat a 3904.
In one of the best drag races we've seen in recent memory, 9,000 of a second triple hole shot win for Bob Tasca. Did you take off the speed limit and the ET limit on those guys?
I took the rev limiter off Aaron Brooks and Todd Okahara. All weekend long, this race car's been wanting to run. We just wanted to find that consistency to go up and down the racetrack. This last run, we knew we had to step up. I knew I had to step up. You're racing against the best in the world over here. That's a big-time matchup. Cabs, Hagen, Proc, Tasca. We got the trophy, baby. Partying in Vegas tonight. Yes! Yes, yes!
I don't think people realize how big that win is for him early in the season.
I agree.
Because we've seen BT3 hang around all season long, lurking, and then when the playoffs hit, it's like, where did he go? This win is huge for him.
Yeah, it really is. And the last time that he has won this early in the season was his first career win when he won the Gator Nationals back in 2009. He's typically not a winner or a player until the midseason. We got to get to about June, July, August, and that's when they really turn it on. So the fact that he can put one into winner's circle and on his driving ability too. But I mean, that final was just awesome. The way that those four came across the line and on a triple hole shot. I mean, it was a great way to end the day. But yeah, that's definitely a momentum builder for Bob Tasca going into the rest of this year.
And we'll start. We've seen it across many teams at the start of this season. And we saw it a little bit this weekend as well, mainly in qualifying. But there's been a lot of crew chief inconsistencies. Is this track prep or is this simply missing the mark?
You know, it's really hard to say because some of these guys that go out there and they're up in smoke by 100 foot, 200 foot. Yeah, I think they're probably just trying to get a little bit too much. Some of them that go up and smoke a little bit later on. The track prep's been a little questionable at some of the events so far this year, unfortunately. But, you know, like we've talked before, and you mention it all the time, you've got to tune for what you got. You got to go out there. You got to see what the track's going to give you. But maybe in qualifying, they know they got 4 sessions. They're trying to find the edge, right, and see what they can get away with. And unfortunately, part of that is you're gonna lose some runs because you're gonna cross over that line.
Now, I've looked at people in eliminations missing the mark as well, and I at Pomona, I was like, okay, with what they did with the track, NHRA deserves some responsibility, but I was wrong. At the end of the day, you take what the defense is giving you, right? If I know that they're playing too high safety and everything underneath, and I just decide that I'm just going to continue to throw the ball, chuck it down the field on a go route, knowing it's bracketed and covered and will be picked off, and it gets picked off, you're the idiot. Not the NFL, not the stadium, not the opposing team's defense. You're the idiot because you didn't take what the defense was giving you. And in this particular case, when we see these guys miss the mark and we already know what the conditions are, You've seen it probably in qualifying. It wasn't there. Even in the hero sessions, it wasn't there. When you come out on race day, you best take what the defense is giving you and at least give yourself an opportunity. But doing a second burnout is irresponsible. And at some point, crew chiefs have to assume the responsibility. And it has been on them, the reason why things have not been consistent. As you stated earlier, you can't get every lane perfect. Every lane can't be the same. Well, every run can't be the same. And I don't care what the conditions or you think that you might be able to get away with. You better know that you can get it done, especially when we have top to bottom, 1 through 16 can go out and kick you right in the gonads and send you right on the trailer in a heartbeat. There's no room for playing. So I think it's time that crew chiefs assume some of the responsibility, and we need to stop pointing the finger at the NHRA. Now, when the NHRA fumbles, and because they've done what they were supposed to do and taken what the track was giving them and it's garbage, then we can do that. But until then, it's time for the crew chiefs to assume the fact that you, sir, missed the mark.
Very true. I wish that they would do a better job of kind of a little bit behind the scenes. Maybe talk to these guys. And the problem is, I guess it's no different than, you mentioned the NFL. We don't know what's going through these guys' heads. We don't know what they're going up there trying to expect to do. We don't know what's in their playbook and what they're doing. Is there a method to their madness? Are they trying to test the lane?
Right.
Are they trying to, that was the other beauty about the 4-wide, like they kept mentioning over the weekend, is you don't know, you can't see all the way across the track. So you as an underdog are hoping that, Tony Stewart and, Doug Coletta's like, oh man, I got Tony Stewart and Steve Torrance in my quad. We gotta hop this thing up because we gotta come at least second, and then hope that they have the same mentality. 2 out of the 3 go up in smoke, and then all of a sudden, you got guys like Jason Rupert going rounds. and not to take nothing away from Jason Rupert, but they went up there, they did their game, and they got A to B without smoking the tires, and they turned on a win light. So
exactly.
It can be done. It's just how much do you want to back it down and chance giving one away.
And I get that. I get that there's competition and sometimes pressure bust pipes. But I'll go and I'll give Jim Oberhofer a ton of credit here. They had some hiccups. They had some issues that they were working out. When I talked to him last week, they were pretty confident that they were going to come out and be able to get this thing to A to B and do so without making a mess and looking good doing it. Going into the lab and humbling yourself sometimes and saying, all right, let's look through things. Let's see what we can do and see what we're doing wrong here. And then go back out and see what we can put together after figuring out our issues is huge. It is very huge. And I even told them on the show, what they did in Pomona to not run that car, knowing darn well you want to run that car. But think that, okay, I don't want to blow any more stuff up, first off. And second of all, I don't want to cost time by oiling the racetrack down. That's hard. That's a hard decision to make. It's not easy to say, well, guys, we're not gonna make this run. I'm not confident that it will be clean. Takes a huge guy to do that. And they came out this week, made the adjustments, and got that car down the racetrack. So it's like at some point, which we will get to, you got to go back to square one sometimes and at least go do what you can to make it go A to B and do that early. You don't want to come in the race day with nothing, because now you're just throwing a dart somewhere and hoping you hit.
Well, and they got it down the track at 336 miles an hour too. One of the top speeds of the meet. So they got it figured out for sure.
Yeah. And I agree. 4 sessions are very nice. I do believe they should be the average. And in some cases, I think it is 3 sessions are good, but I do agree. I think there needs to be more more, in certain instances, yes, should have more 4-session days than not. So I agree, because you're right. What ends up happening is that Friday session is a Hail Mary. And a lot of times if you don't hit that Hail Mary, you're playing catch up, because likely those other 2 sessions are in race day conditions, and you're not going to be able to repeat what somebody did that night, going super low for ET, and probably hitting a big time speed too.
Well, and that might still be the mentality that, at least that I used to remember, what they always used to say was, when they had 4 sessions, Friday's first session was to get a feel for the track. Friday night session was to put down a number, and 2 Saturday sessions were to get your race day tune-up sorted out. That was everybody's game plan going into the weekend, and that's how you played it out. It was very, very rare that you saw hero runs on Saturday unless the weather conditions dictated it. Then you could really go for it. But a lot of times that was the strategy. Yeah,
and you're right. Drag Racing Mayhem is 100% correct here. It is. It's about providing a safe racetrack. All this perfection, and they didn't put down enough, stick 'em. All that crying is garbage. Just tune it to what they give you, and that's just how it is. I'm sorry. I can no longer defend you.
The sad part is, I don't think that they're going to do that, because remember when they said a couple years ago, you know what, we're getting a little bit too fast.
Yeah,
we're going to change the formula. We're going to back down on the track prep, and it was just a smoke show for 3 races in a row. And they're like, all right, put it back. These guys can't handle it.
You thought you were in the mid 90s.
They are right. They are not backing those cars down. They are not backing them down.
Now, what we're seeing here throughout Top Fuel, Funny Car, and Pro Stock, do you believe that we truly have parity here?
I mean, I feel like it's really getting that way. And the reason I think about that is because so far this year, we've had 18 opportunities for trophies, and we've had 14 different drivers take them home. When you combine the Mission Foods challenges at Phoenix and Vegas, and then the 4 events that we've had. And, we got guys winning races that we've got. Jeg coming back. Great story. We got Tony Schumacher, legend of the sport, winning a Mission Foods challenge. We've got Coletta cars winning 3 out of the 4 Top Fuel national events. We got defending champ Doug Coletta winning one. We got John Force, the greatest of all time. He's already got a Wally this year. Erica, of course, she's got one. Greg Anderson's got one. I mean, you got all the names, and they're out there and they're winning races, and we're only 4 races into the year. I mean, I think that's pretty awesome. Now, how it looks on paper versus how it looks in the point standings tells you a different story. The point standings will always tell you who's more consistent and who's just a one-shot wonder. But you know what? That's to be determined later on. We'll worry about the championship later. Right now, I'm loving seeing all the different faces in the winner's circle, from the legends to the newcomers like Austin Prock, who's got 2 wins already in the Mission Food Challenge and a national event win, and he's only been in 4 races. So, I mean, we got the new and the old, and everybody's putting down numbers, and it's great to see.
Yeah, this is a great time in drag racing. I don't know about the average. The average would be interesting, though. I'm not going to poo-poo on it. I think something like that would be interesting. I don't know if crew chiefs and racers would like it, but that would be interesting. But I think we're in a great time in drag racing with all the names, the different names that we're seeing. You look at Funny Car, you get to see Paul Lee. He's making himself some progress here, and I think by mid-season they're going to be into a nice little groove. Like we talked about, Jason Rupert coming out, being able to go rounds. It has been very interesting, and it has been fun to watch, because it is not, if you're playing drag race bracket bonanza, it's not a sure thing every week, no matter how good it looks on paper. When it comes down to race day, it's always that 1 or 2 rounds that you're like, really, man, you had one job and you got beat by the other guy, the low qualifying guy. So it's hard, and it's showing when you play that game, you're seeing how hard it really is to go rounds these days.
Well, and I posed this question to you because I know how I would answer it as a fan. Is it better for the sport to have all these different faces in victory lane every week in and week out, or going in there and Torrance sweeping the countdown, Force winning 12 out of 13, Erica winning 90% of the, you know what I mean? What looks better? What brings more people to the stands?
It's definitely the parity,
opportunity, or you know, the fact that one guy's going to win it all, and it's kind of like a foregone conclusion when you come in.
Yeah, I think this has been great because not only everybody who's a fan of whoever driver you have out there, they feel like they have a shot each and every week. And it gives the casual fan, it gives them more of a reason to pay attention too, because it's not like, oh, well, here we go. Erica's gonna sweep through another 4 rounds and get another Wally. It has been guesswork. And 2 races, I thought that she was a shoe-in for a Wally, and it didn't happen.
Right.
It is, and it's becoming harder to say that because when you look at the competition around her, they're running very good on race day. You know what I mean? Sometimes it doesn't pan out in qualifying, but man, they're showing up on race day. And on top of that, we got guys that are actually cutting decent lights that are giving themselves an opportunity.
Yeah, if you're talking in the pro stock ranks, I mean, just tracking the averages, Greg Anderson has stepped up his game big time this year, and they've had the car to compete too. Yeah. They've been putting down the numbers, which he has not had that in a long time. Eric has usually had a couple hundreds on the field. Nice to see Jerry Tucker out there. I mean, the parity, I think, is a good thing. I mean, it could be bad. You don't want, like an IROC series where everything's the same. It's all cookie cutter and you just plug in a different face. And, that there's different ways of looking at it and go, well, geez, if anybody, I could get in there and win one too and get a wallet. It's not that easy, but the fact that you have the chance, you still have to deliver. But the fact that you can go in there and think, you know what, I got a chance today. You're not, so we're talking about the NHRA at its peak when it was dominated. Yeah, and that was also, like Reinhardt always says, sometimes these guys would be number one qualifier and the bump would be 2-3 tenths behind them.
Mm-hmm.
Those days are gone. The field has tightened up, and I think that's where the parity comes from, is how tight the rubber band is pulling back together. It's bringing everybody together, and it separates the drivers and the crew chiefs who can really get these cars down the track. And I think it's more impressive to win races and championships in this style than somebody who's just got half second on the field and he's going to win.
Yeah. You made a good point. Crew chiefs in this day and time are aplenty. It's not a couple guys, that are the elite and everybody else is learning or good, but not as good as. Everybody now, from top to bottom, are crew chiefs that can get the job done. And if you're not on your game, if you're slipping one round, you can easily, as a top guy with big team sponsors, find yourself on the trailer quickly. And I think this is probably the best that we've seen in a long time, and probably ever, when it comes to crew chiefs from top to bottom, and how well they're tuning these race cars. Like I said, I mean, look at what Krista Baldwin is doing with her operation. And they're coming out and running highly respectable numbers that can win races. And they've only been out a couple races. So it tells you the quality of the crew chiefs that are out there. And, the hard work that those guys are putting in. I think the sport's going to be very, very well once some of these older crew chiefs or crew chiefs that are veterans decide when they're done pulling away from the sport. There's a big, huge tree of really good crew chiefs that are being taught and that are out there showing what they can do.
For sure. And, these guys that are out there, Chris, they have in Pat Dagan's old team. I mean, they would go rounds. They were contenders. They can get that car down the track. One of the happiest first round losers, Jeff Deal, putting up that 399 first round, first time in the threes, and goes back to what we were talking about, guys competing against each other. You had Hagan, Cruz, Force, and Rupert in a quad, and Hagan and Rupert advanced because Force and Cruz can't make it down. Yeah. And then you got Jeff Deal out there going 399 and just getting absolutely smoked by Alexis, and I believe it was Tasca, the other two, and didn't get to advance. But it just goes to show, if you just take what the track could give you, get it down there, and these guys are learning. Terry Haddock made a couple of threes. Now he's been a little inconsistent on going rounds and repeating that, but these guys, the lower funded teams, if you'd call them that, and the guys that you would consider, field fillers or the bottom half guys, that they're stepping up. They're getting closer.
Yeah, they really are. And this brings me to good old struggle bus is full effect for some people. And I'm going to start with this man, Dave Richards. He has struggled to make consistent passes down the racetrack. And I said it earlier before we got this far into the season that I really, after learning a lot, I really think this is a problem between horsepower and something in the bell housing that they're having issues with. The clutch setup or whatever it is right there I believe it's all right there. Because there's no way you can continue to basically put two burnouts out there or at least get to about 330 feet and it just goes away.
Right.
My suggestion is, and I'm fair, I'm very fair. You guys know that. So not picking on Dave Richards. I really would like to have him on to really talk to him about the struggles they are having and what the issues really are. But I'm just making an educated guess here from what I've learned from different crew chiefs and talking to drivers that I really do believe this is probably a bell housing issue. If you're having that issue, I think it's time that you go back to square one. Like, just scrap, do whatever you got to do. Maybe it's a combination of things, but comb through it, find it, and then say, okay, we got to go back to something a little bit more simple and at least get the car to go down the racetrack and get a full pool data, right? And then once you do that, then you can kind of figure out and see what the car's doing, and you kind of add a little bit and you add a little bit. Hey, you may go out first round in your next race, but at least you're gathering data to help you out down the stretch here, because this is a long season. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon. And you still have time to make consistent passes and at least get yourself in the area of, especially with these participation trophy spots, that you can make the countdown. So it is tough to watch him continue to not make full passes. And my suggestion is go back to square one, go back to basics, and see what the issue is and make a full pass. And then you can figure out what the heck's going on there with that race car.
Yeah, and it's a shame that, they came out with such high hopes, and now they're getting to the point where they're starting to struggle to qualify even for the field. So,
right.
I mean, that's tough. But, best laid plans, they don't always pan out. But again, you made good points. As long as you're there, as long as you show up, you're going to be in the points, you're going to be in the countdown. Work on it. And maybe they don't got the budget to go make passes, but
they got a skag. They're a skag team.
I mean, they are. That's true. But I don't see the skag body on the car. I don't know how. They're.
Yeah, I don't know the parameters on that, but
I don't either. But it doesn't seem like. But all right, and all right. So here's where I'm going with that. Since we're already on Team Skag, Daniel Wilkerson has been surprisingly underwhelming to start this year, especially considering where Tim was at this point last year. But to be at the bottom of the top 10 in points is something you didn't expect, especially the way they ended last year. that team is kind of fallen on hard a little bit, I would say.
You know what I thought about that when you mentioned that? Sometimes I think Timmy doesn't trust himself, or he goes a little conservative. You know, he has that conservative play call sometimes, and it can show up on the racetrack. And it has showed up on the racetrack. I would like to see him be more aggressive, because there's no doubt they have all the best parts and pieces now that money can buy. So, I mean, I understand you don't want to blow stuff up, and I get that, and Tim hates that. We all know that. But I think you got to get a little bit more aggressive, because I think this car can scoot with the best of them. Just can't be so conservative when the conditions, everybody else around you that have half of what you got is making clean passes. Terry Haddock. You mean,
right?
Go after it a little bit. Get a little aggressive, and see what she does. I know he doesn't like blowing stuff up, like I said, but you're going to have to put a little bit more oomph in it.
It seems like the class in general has been kind of scaled down from where we were at last year, or where we ended last year with, 380s. Those guys were just kind of creeping up on the 380s just in the countdown with Chad. When Daniel was tuning Chad Green, he was kind of bumping his career best 5,000ths to 100th every event as the season wound down. But you don't even see a lot of the top guys are kind of in that range right now. We're not seeing any big, good hero runs out of the teams, but I agree. You got to push it a little bit harder and kind of go for it a little bit. And, now's the time to learn. Now's the time to push it and see what it'll get away with. So, a little bit later on in the year when you get there.
Agreed. Which brings me to this man, Cruz Pedregon. Now, they have an entirely new team over there. Jason Bunker is guy kind of calling shots over there. They got a young team over there. So, yes, they are struggling, and I'm a little bit surprised at them being on the struggle bus. But at the same time, I also know Cruz very well. And what I think this is, look, we're a new team. Let's make sure that we're getting repetition, because we know last year there were a lot of little stupid hiccups that, shouldn't happen that were happening. And let's develop some level of consistency in what we do as far as putting a race car together, taking it apart, getting it out on the racetrack, and let's sneak up on this thing. And then once we get our baseline, which I think it's coming, I really do believe in the next two races, we should start seeing Cruz make some really good passes. I believe they tested here in Vegas as well. I think they're going to start making some headway here. But like I said, you can't ignore the fact that they are on the struggle bus.
And I thought Cruz said something interesting when they interviewed him on NHRA TV. It might have been after one of the qualifying passes. To paraphrase, it was something along the lines of, we're glad we're not blowing stuff up, and it's okay that we're not running as good as we could be as long as we're not hurting anything. Right. And that was a very unusual statement, I think, to hear from Cruz, because Cruz has been one that's always been about putting down results, not having the other thought in mind. But, maybe it's turning over a new leaf, and they got a new game plan with that particular team, and they're backing into it. Again, another one. Yeah, the struggle bus is definitely in effect early on in the season for them. Definitely not where they're anticipating to be 12th place in points right now, 4 races in. But
right,
we'll see as we start getting in a couple more races if they're still down there. At least at this point last year, he was up at 9th in points. But with a couple more round wins, it'd be interesting to see how that plays out. And if they get, he's somebody that when he comes up for qualifying, you anticipate him to be a mid 390 car and a player. And right now, he's not somebody that you look at as I'm picking in my drag race bracket bonanza. Let's just put it that way. To put it politely, you're kind of looking at going, well, that's an easy pick 'em.
Right. I have noticed that as well. And to kind of look back to last year, they had more round wins. They were still ugly, and then it just got worse. Like the wheels just fell off mid regular season. So I do commend Cruz for let's get our stuff right. Let's get some confidence. Let's get some team confidence, and then we'll unleash the fury here in the next couple of races. And I like I said, another 4 wide, they have an opportunity to kind of attack it a little bit stronger here because you only have 3 rounds. And then coming into that next race there, I think they're going to be ready to go.
Now, is this a situation where they got all these new guys? So they're obviously one of the longest tenured cars that's out there, but if you're always changing your setup, your notebook's not very thick.
Right.
Because every note that you had from your old setup doesn't work anymore.
Exactly.
So you're almost coming into every season and every event fresh, and that's got to be hard to keep doing.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I really I think this change was good, and he's got some young guys that I believe that are on the up and up, and they'll find, because like you said, 12 spots. I don't expect them to be down that far anyway. Not when the playoffs start. But you got time, and you got the ability to be able to kind of do this because of the countdown, and they can just work their way up as they go. Another car is the Jim Dunn Racing funny car driven by Buddy Hall. I love Buddy, but he's on the struggle bus, man. Like, I expected them to make a few more runs, a little bit stronger, I should say. And we just haven't seen that. And I don't know whether it's the same thing that we're talking about with Cruz, where we're kind of just trying to sneak up on the thing. But I didn't expect this car to struggle this much in making consistent runs down the racetrack.
No, and it's very tough to see some of these guys, like they were calling out here, that have been to all 4 races and are lower in points than guys that have been to just 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah.
It's sad, but I know that particular car can be a contender. It can be a player. And yeah, I agree. I thought that we'd see a little bit more out of them. Maybe they're another one that's just kind of sneaking up on it as opposed to hitting it hard right out of the park. But, and I agree. I don't think that it's anything that's going to be related to Buddy's driving or trying to get acclimated to a funny car. I think it's just trying to get that tune up, just getting that feel for it and getting it down the track.
Yeah, I think it is, because I know this can't, that was my thought too. This can't be about, the driver. The driver can drive. So yeah. I just think that there's a struggle like so many other teams have had. And it's really, to be honest with you, it's getting the car off the starting line. And then it has been between that 60 and 330, it ain't happy for whatever reason. And that could be, maybe it's not getting up or taking off hard enough in the first 60. And by the time you get to that 60 to 330, it's not enough momentum and that you go into tire shake. So, I don't know, but that's what it looks like. I hear what you're saying there, Drag Racing Mayhem, but I really did. I think this car has shown that it can be run. Look back at when Jim Campbell was driving the thing. And I do think a little bit was the newness for Alex Laughlin. And granted, there were a lot of other things that went into that. The poor guy was too tall for the car, honestly. So it's kind of hard to drive a car like this. But I do think it was a little bit of the newness of them sneaking up on it. But Buddy Hull is clearly a proven he's supposed to be in a funny car. He's driven fuel altereds, and all those things. So there's no doubt that he can drive. I just think they're struggling with the early setup with the tune-up, getting out of the gate strong, because it's just not showing up. And even when they do make it almost full, it's not a low 4. You know what I mean? It's 420s or above. So I just think they're not getting out of the gates quick enough.
Well, and the hard part is they did announce, because obviously they lost the first run in qualifying here in Vegas. And I'm pretty sure that Reinhardt had said on the PA that the issue was something in the ignition system. They found something that was wrong, and they feel like it might have been hindering them throughout the season, and they just didn't really know it until it finally killed the car. And they're like, oh, okay, now we've diagnosed the problem. So I had high hopes for the other remaining runs for the rest of the weekend, but to still, like you say, not put a number on the board better than a 423 and also not qualify was a bit of a shock.
Yeah, it really was. A guy who was struggling to really kind of make it here and be consistent was Tony Stewart. But they actually found a little something this week with that race car. I know he talks about his weight versus his wife's weight. And I know that trying to find that balance, and have that even weight distribution, I don't think people realize how important that is and how much that can throw off a tune-up on how that car responds with a different body that weighs a little more in the race car. I'm not calling you fat, Tony. I'm just saying you weigh a little bit. Okay. I'm not calling you fat. You just weigh a little bit more. Okay. So it does make a difference, and it kind of throws things off when it comes down to tuning a race car, and they're just trying to figure that whole thing out. Seems like they kind of found a little something this weekend, though.
It does. It seems like they definitely hit on something. They were getting down the track. They made clean runs. Tony was having good reaction times, and they were going rounds. That was kind of the team that we anticipated that the season was going to start with. But again, we also have to consider Tony's still a rookie, and there's still stuff. Maybe he's driving it a little out of the groove. Maybe it's Shane a little bit too much here, too much there. There could be other things.
Right.
Now, a couple of passes in Phoenix when it just obliterated the tires before the Christmas tree, that's going to be tune-up. That's not, there's nothing that's a mechanical error or tune-up error right there. But, there's runs where they've gotten down the track 600-700 foot and had to blitz the tires and shut it off. It could be stuff that's just tune-up related there. It could be driver. There's a lot of stuff. We got to remember this guy has made laps in these top fuel cars in testing and licensing, and he's got plenty of laps in an alcohol car, but they don't accelerate nearly the way that the top fuel car is going to do. So He's still a rookie, and to be in a final round and go arounds the way that he has in 4 races, that's not bad.
It's really
not bad. We're not talking about like a Gary Selzy and a Larry Dixon that are winning their first and second starts, and these guys are, they're coming out here and setting the world on fire. Yes, you are getting into a competitive car, and you have all of the, I guess you'd say, amenities and everything behind you to propel you to the top. It's just a matter of getting the job done. And I think Tony's going to be a real surprise. And I think when he breaks through and gets one, it's probably going to open the floodgates, and it might be a couple more. But also to your point on the weight issue, that's why a lot of crew chiefs were hesitant to and don't even bother to run a canopy car because of all that additional weight and where it is placed in the car. Case in point, look at Team Coletta. When they went back from the canopy car to the open cockpit, they haven't gone back.
Right. That is a little bit of difficulty with that. Coming into this 4-wide race in 2 weeks, what do you think we see?
I'm hoping that we see the same type of competitive, close racing that we saw in Las Vegas. I hope that the track is prepped well, and I hope that the weather is good. Charlotte this time of year, if the air is there and the weather is right, they could be putting down some numbers. And we know that Charlotte's got a good history, as does Vegas, of big speeds because of the way that they are designed. The Bruton Smith tracks all run downhill to give you that little extra oomph going down there. So it'd be good to see. I'd like to see some big numbers put up on the board on the Friday session. That would be cool to see. But I'm looking forward to kind of those top fuel and funny car finals, or even the semifinals, because the second round of eliminations was just as good for all 4 cars too. As long as they all get down the track, everybody's safe and puts on a good show. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, me too. Pro Stock Motorcycle is back. I'm super excited about that. I'm really hoping. I don't know how many people got the test. I believe Matt Smith did some testing over this break here, which I hate. I'm all this hoopla about nothing. I think at the end of the day, the big thing here and the big issue is that Gage was able to hit the ground running because he basically did what he did coming out of a championship. They just picked up right where they left off. Even Richard Gaston was learning, or they're learning that bike itself. There's a lot of people that got new bikes that were out there at Gainesville that did no testing because they couldn't, and they were really looking forward to that testing. And I think it showed up. But I think if you look at some numbers and some incrementals between bikes, there are people that are very close. It's just, it's going to take them a little time. NHRA has got to find a way to get them another race in between this here, and maybe it is because of that big West Coast pull, but they got to find a way to get them a race earlier. This is just too long of a wait, and I'm hoping that for the most part they can come out and hit the ground running here in Charlotte.
I agree. It's good to see the bikes back, and it's kind of like the schedule changed on them. I mean, if you remember, obviously way back when we would run. Sometimes Gainesville wouldn't be till the 4th race of the year, 3rd, 4th race of the year. The bikes didn't used to start. Houston used to be their first race in March, but we'd already had Pomona and Phoenix by then. Then it moved to Gainesville. Now that Gainesville's opening the season, Gainesville's almost kind of like the winter test session for the motorcycles. Then we run another 2 or 3. It's like we always hit the ground running with the other 3 pro classes, and then they joined, and then they were part of the schedule for a while, and they ran a couple back-to-back here and there. So maybe they need to revisit, do we still open the motorcycle season with the Gator Nationals, or do we push them back? But the problem is, if you push them back, do you start them at the 4 wides? Do you want that to be your opening event? Do you let the first couple races go? It's hard to plan where you send these guys, and it might be, like you say about the West Coast side of things, is that where they even want to go? Are they happy with it the way that it is?
Yeah, I think the West Coast, I think it's money. I think it's money early. I don't think they want to come from East Coast and then go all the way to the other side, to the West Coast. I don't think that they see that as viable for them. That's why I say sticking to a traditional schedule all the time isn't always the best thing. I think you gotta change things up a little bit. And if they can change up a few things and move a few events, maybe you have one in the middle of the country before, you go to the 4 wides. Maybe you move the 4 wides back. I don't know. Somehow, some way, they need to have an extra race in there. And that would take logistics and kind of everybody working together. But that's why I say it doesn't have to be traditionally you go to these tracks at the same time every year. I think that you should have a level of flexibility.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Dave, tell everybody where they can follow you at and see some of the great stuff that you put up as far as stats and, old school stuff. There's a lot of cool stuff you put up there.
Really, it's just kind of just in the random Facebook groups. I'll post stuff in the different categories in the alcohol classes where I've been lately, because I've been trying to complete my record research on those categories and come up with a lot of interesting statistics if you're a sportsman fan or a top alcohol fan in general. Otherwise, as always on YouTube, the Dave W. YouTube channel, try and post stuff every now and then when I get a chance, some classic drag racing that pops up. Otherwise, that's really about it.
Well, Dave, we'll have to talk about possibly doing a show about that, about the whole thing that you're putting together with the alcohol class, and try to do that here in the near future.
Yeah, no problem. I'd love to.
All right, brother. Let's catch you on the next one.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me on. Good night, everybody.
Good night. That's Dave W., everybody. And man, what a great show. I appreciate all the comments, all the participation here has been great. It's going to be a fun year, an absolute fun year here in NHRA, and I'm looking forward to it. Oh, man. So I'm going to start here. if you are watching this show, I need you to go over to the NotBland Show YouTube page. I need you to go to the subscribe button. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe, please. Like and share the show anywhere that you choose. The more, the merrier. We're going to continue doing things like this all season long. Of course, you know we're covering drag racing heavily. Football season is coming up and the draft is coming up. We might have a special show or two here coming into the draft. As man, I'm looking forward to seeing who gets drafted where. It's going to be a fun first round of the NFL draft. Next week, I hope to have one half of the Fox broadcast, Mr. Brian Loans himself. We're going to talk to him about the 4 wides coming up and some special things they've been doing with Fox, along with how he feels about this season and how it's gone and how he sees it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, again, my name is Dujane Bland. This has been the NotBland Show, powered by SportsJourney.com and Everything Nitro. You guys are the best in the world, and I appreciate you guys tuning in to watch me. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen,